They don't want you educated. And if you get educated, they want you drowning in debt. Hey, folks, how you doing? Thanks for joining me. Please take a minute to hit thumbs up. Let's get into it. Biden's student loan forgiveness plan may already be dead. And do you think it's a coincidence, by the way, that it dies days after the election? they're just like, just pretend it's happening through the midterm election, please. But yeah, it may already be dead. And let's get into the details of that. I also have other stories after that. Toledo, Ohio is one of the more than one city that is erasing people's medical debt. I'm going to go into that. Also, the editor of Mint Press, which is where I have my other show, Most Censored News, canceled from a panel event on... She's a Palestinian canceled from an event as moderator about BDS, about boycott, divest, and sanctions. Anyway, I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into the new proof that the U.S. and our media, our garbage media, manufactured that ridiculous, outrageous event at the Chinese party, Communist Party meeting, where their large meeting where the former president was walked out and our media lost their goddamn minds, and the fucking hair caught on fire. Oh, he was walked out like they were watching some sort of MMA fight. Holy shit, he knocked him out in the first 12 seconds. But there's more. People have actually now had time. It's been a week or two. Had time to actually break down what actually happened, and there's no evidence that it was any big deal. But I'll be getting into that. It's classic U.S. propaganda. Anyway, all that stuff is coming up on the show. So let's dive into the student loan issue. So let me give the background for a second. That Biden said he's forgiving student loans, right? Millions of people. I think it's something like 43 million adults have some form of student loan debt. And as I said at the beginning, the ruling class does not want you educated. That's A. And B, if you get educated, they want to make sure you're struggling in debt so that you get into the system. You get locked down in a job. You're not one of those fucking unscrupulous, surly folks out on the sidewalks demanding change. Instead, you're slaving away at a job that you likely hate in order to pay off that debt or other debt, such as medical debt, which we'll also be talking about. But so Biden said he was gonna get rid of some of this, and there's so many notes to be made as to how pathetic this is and how pathetic it shows the Democrats are. Which, if you're new to my stuff, Democrats, Republicans, same party. Okay, you need to know that. You need to learn that. If you don't learn that, you will think about everything wrong. Learn that now, okay? And if you haven't learned that yet, Democrats, Republicans, same party. If you haven't learned that yet, do some reading. Just go read things. I mean, not yet. Stay here for the next hour, but go read things, and you will slowly, it'll start to occur to you. Democrats, Republicans, same party. But Republicans tend to tell you, hey, we're going to fuck you in the face. And sorry, that I know some of you don't like the language. We're going to make love to you in your face. So Republicans say that kind of outright. Democrats, they do this whole dance. We're going to help you. We're going to help the people struggling. We're going to help you with health care. I played a Biden clip where it was coincidence that he was saying this, but because it was when he was being interrupted and attacked on his fucking horrible record. But it was a coincidence that during that, while he's being yelled at by the crowd, he continues with his speech. In his speech, he goes, Big Pharma did not win this year. Big Pharma lost and the American people won. No, they didn't. No, they did not. So that's the dance Democrats have to play. And Here are some of the things that you can know how sad and wishy-washy and spineless and pathetic the Democrats truly are. One, if they were actually going to do this to get rid of student loan debt, and if it meant something to them, if they had a moral core where it was just like, oh, I've got to do this because I need to help people. If that were what it was, then on day one of Biden's presidency, he would have done this, right? Day one, sign something, student loan debt gone. Why wait till now? Why? And I'll tell you why. Because A, they didn't really want to do it. B, the amount they did, which I'm going to get more into that in a second, they're doing in order to win the midterms, which, as you now know, they were able to keep the Senate, and they lost the House anyway, but it was not the red wave. But of course, it was not the red wave because of Roe v. Wade. Sorry, that almost rhymed. It was not a red landslide because Roe v. Wade was overturned. Abortion rights are getting knocked down. And so people came out to vote mainly for that reason. Maybe the student loan debt thing helped a little. But that's kind of hilarious because that means people are coming out to vote for Democrats because Democrats failed to defend their right to have an abortion for the past God knows how many years. They never codified it. Even when they had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, they never put it into law. They never actually defended a woman's right to choose. They didn't do it on every step. And Obama failed to put in a Supreme Court justice that would have defended that. Like on every step, they failed to defend that. So they basically did better because of their past failures. That's a side note. So Biden does this thing, waits till now, like I said, because he has no moral core. He's a sociopath, as they pretty much all are. And so they do this before the midterm to cancel student debt. Pete, if you listen to mainstream media, Biden was canceling all student debt, right? or at least they made it sound like it was almost all of it. Of course, it's not. It was, it's still millions of people, but it was up to $10,000, which the people who are truly drowning in the debt, it's probably even more than that. But up to $10,000 is still a goddamn good start. But then it was people who apply. So you got to apply. You got to be paying attention. You got to get in there. You got to apply. Who knows why they turn people down? They obviously turn some down, or why have them apply. And then so far, I think they said they've gotten 16 million applications, which is a lot of people. That's a lot of people applying. That's good to hear. But out of 43 million people with student loan debt, that's not everyone. So let's be clear on that. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm getting this number correct. I got it right. Hey, look at that. I got something right. 42.8 to be exact million people with student loan debt. Okay, in America. Also, keep in mind, as you're reading this, listening to this, hearing this, other countries, 0 people with student loan debt. In many other countries, 0 people, because education is either free or nearly free for their citizens. So U.S. 43 million, other countries 0. But we're the best. We're number one. I just want to make that clear. We're the number one. We're number one in number of people with student loan debt. We're number one. Okay, so we've knocked it down to 16 million. We've knocked it down to under $10,000 debt. So he's getting, each thing makes it more and more piecemeal as to what they're actually doing. And then we get to the crowning achievement, or a crowning failure. Can you have a crowning failure? Because if so, Biden has a lot of crowning failures. It's just like, wow, man, that failure is above and beyond your other failures. Good on you, man. Good on you. So student loan forgiveness may be dead. And here's the LA Times coverage of it. The Biden administration has stopped accepting applications for the student loan relief, casting doubt on the program that was intended to help 40 million borrowers. There's 42.8 million borrowers. Okay, LA Times. Okay. The Education Department's move came in response to a ruling Thursday from U.S. District Judge Marty Pittman in Texas, who held that the department didn't have the legal authority to offer loan forgiveness on that scale. The White House said it will appeal the ruling. Pittman's ruling only intensified the program's legal troubles. Oh, isn't it tough when the Democrats, it's usually the Democrats, but, occasionally Republicans do some shit too. But when the Democrats try and do something to help the American people and we just want to do something, and then the legal system always shoots them down. It's either the legal system or the parliamentarian, which apparently is a position in Congress. One of these things always stops them at the last minute. They're just Charlie Brown with the football, right? The football says across it in this political cartoon that has too many words on it, says, helping American people is written across the football, and they are Charlie Brown trying to kick it. And Lucy says across her face, courts or Republicans or parliamentarian. And Lucy is like, yoink. Every time Democrats want to help people. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that it works out that way? You don't think, I'm just spitballing here. You don't think that the system is designed to make sure that the ruling class always gets what they want, that corporate America always gets what they want, even when Democrats do some little thing to make it look like they're trying to help people, right? You don't think systems designed. No, not designed. No. What do you guys think, producers that aren't here? Yeah, the three of you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you don't think so. Pittman's ruling only intensified the program's legal troubles. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals has already barred the Education Department from writing off any debt while it considered a lawsuit brought by 6 Republican-controlled states. So they're holding them off from getting rid of any debt right now while these go through the courts. Here's another thing. Just spitball. You don't think the U.S. legal system, the U.S. quote unquote justice system, is designed to benefit the ruling class, right? You don't think that couldn't be a thing, right? That these laws, even if they were accurately interpreted, which it sounds like this one probably was not, but even if they were accurately interpreted, you don't think they were like written and decided on again and again by people who were already like our fucking rich ruling class, right? No, that's not true, right? Right? Like most of these laws were written by like poor people who were struggling and needed help, right? I hope some of you, I'd say 65%, are actually getting my sarcasm right now. Pittman vacated the entire debt relief program, saying the department usurped Congress's legislative power in violation of the Constitution. Unless the administration persuades a higher court to overturn Pittman's ruling, the program is dead. White House Press Secretary Karen Jean-Pierre, said Thursday that 26 million borrowers had already applied and 16 million have been approved for loan forgiveness. Oh, I think I said 16 million applied, but 16 million have been approved. Isn't that interesting that already just looking at those numbers, out of 26 million people applying for this program, they've already turned down 10 million people. The White House has and the Department of Education has already told 10 fudging million people, 10 making love million people that they can't have student loan debt forgiveness when they claimed they were going to give it to them. Anyway, the lawsuits all made the same basic claim that the Education Department exceeded its legal authority when it offered blanket debt relief to borrowers with federal student loans. Now, here's something to think about that. The devil's advocate argument would be, well, they exceeded their legal abilities right there. That's how the system works. The White House can't get rid of this debt. These type of decisions only come down, only happen, only make their ways through the courts when they benefit corporate America, almost exclusively. There are little exceptions in the Supreme Court. I'm not saying there aren't. Some of them have been the biggest wins that the people across this country have had. like, civil rights and abortion that has now been gutted. But most of the time, these things only actually make their way through the courts when it benefits corporate America to stop these things. So you don't see a lot of the court said that Congress couldn't give $100 billion to fucking Raytheon to obliterate children in Yemen. Like, the courts don't step in for that stuff. You don't see the courts stepping in and going, hey, the Pentagon failed to do an audit at all until a few years ago. And then now they've done 4 audits, and every year they just say they failed their audit, and we actually get no new information about what the fuck is going on with the money in the Pentagon. You never hear the courts say, yeah, the Pentagon legally can't have any more money until they tell us where the trillions is going. The courts almost exclusively, with a few exceptions, seem to step in and just like stop things that corporate America wouldn't like. The Justice Department argues, however, that the 2003 HEROES Act gave the Education Department all the authority it needs. The act gives the department power to waive or modify any requirement for student loans, including those written into federal statutes. Its powers, however, can be used during a national emergency as well as wartime. And by the way, folks, would you like to guess on how often the United States is at war? All the time. All of the time. So if we have special powers in wartime, we have, the fucking Education Department or whoever, special powers in wartime, or the White House, then they have special powers all the time. And most of the time, this is a bad thing, right? Most of the time, this is used to surveil us. This is used to take away our privacy. This is used to say, we got to stick a finger up your butt at airport security. This is used for that kind of stuff. Usually horrible shit. And they go, well, we have special powers right now because it's a national emergency. It's wartime. Yeah, it's always wartime. You can't, you guys are always bombing people. 26,000 bombs dropped in Obama's final year. 40,000 bombs dropped in Trump's first year. Like, you guys are always, and that hasn't changed at all. You guys are always bombing people. So you can't just say you have special powers in wartime, because that means you have special powers all of the time to invade our privacy, to surveil us, to fucking destroy our rights all of the time. Now, in this rare case, they're trying to use it in a positive way to erase some tiny amount of student debt. It's not a tiny amount, but it's a tiny amount compared to saying they're going to erase everybody's student loan debt, or at least that's how a lot of the media made it sound. The national emergency that President Trump declared at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic has yet to be lifted officially, even though President Biden said that the pandemic was over. So we're under a national emergency. But here's the other thing. If they really wanted to do, and they could, there's always a national emergency, even outside of the endless war. They're like, climate crisis is an actual national emergency that will go for our lifetimes. And they don't want to talk about that. That's not a national emergency. Not at all. But so they're saying that so it's going to be appealed. They're saying that the White House didn't have this power. I don't know if the White House knew going in that this is what would happen, and so they knew that it would. And this is if this is how Machiavellian they are, this is actually pretty genius. If they knew the courts were going to stop them, or they wanted the courts to stop them, so they intentionally worded their erasing of the student loan debt in a certain way, or the amount that they were erasing in a certain way that they could ensure it would be stopped by the courts. If they did that intentionally, and I would never be so cynical, but if they did that intentionally and they waited until just before the midterms to announce this, which they did, and they knew it would be stopped by the courts, and they knew that they would never have to actually get rid of anyone's student debt, then so they would do well in the midterms, having gone, hey, look at us. We're the Democrats. We're the party that wants to get rid of your student debt. And then the midterms happen. They do better than expected. And then the courts shoot down their student debt forgiveness. And could they have known all of that? I think it's quite possible they could have manufactured this thing from the start. I wouldn't put it past them. Not Joe Biden. I mean, let's be honest. Joe Biden doesn't actually know which portion of the wall is the door to leave his office. So someone has to escort him and be like, this is called a door handle. This is how you walk out of the room. Because if you leave him in there, he'll pee on the carpet and he'll take a dump in the desk drawer. And it's not, once that gets into the ornate lattice work of the Oval Office desk, yeah, once you get that rubbed on in there, that's never coming out. I mean, no. So they got to escort him out of there pretty quick. Anyway, that was a side note. One other note that needs to be said before we move on to the next topic, which is a related topic of an actual locality, a city doing something that Biden's not doing, which is actually erasing people's debt. One last note, Biden helped create the student debt crisis. And I've covered this on past live streams, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. But Biden, throughout his roughly 632-year Senate career, it's amazing how old he is. Like, he ran for president in the 80s and dropped out because he was caught for plagiarism. Like, he ran for president in the 80s. Anyway, so throughout his career, he was largely funded. I mean, he's from Delaware, right? That is the biggest banking, tax loophole, financialization, bullshit state of the entire union. Biden was funded and continues to be funded largely by credit card companies and banks. And he was one of the biggest people behind the push to make it so that you could not declare bankruptcy to get out of student loan debt. With other debt, you can declare bankruptcy. Yeah, it has ramifications. It can destroy your credit, destroy a lot of things in your life. You can lose companies and things if you have that. But it's how a lot of people, and it's how Trump many times has gotten out of paying a lot of the debt he owes, is to declare bankruptcy. But they passed something through Congress that said, except student loan debt. On that one, you cannot declare bankruptcy. You just have to suffer under it forever. And that was Biden. So for those of you millions, 43 million out there with student loan debt that causes severe ramifications throughout your life, as long as you are paying that and that money is not going towards other things like family and life and security and all those things. As you think about that, remember, Biden created that. So you would likely not be under that amount of debt if it weren't for Biden. Okay, so moving on. This has gone on in Toledo, Ohio. Big fan of Toledo. Not sure I've ever been, actually, but at the moment I'm a big fan of Toledo. Toledo, Ohio is trying to erase up to $240 million in medical debt in their area. And they're doing it the same way that you and I helped erase a lot of people's medical debt last year. So Toledo City Council, along with commissioners of the wider Lucas County, passed a new proposal on Wednesday that is expected to forgive up to $240 million in medical debt for residents. The money came from President Biden's, as if it's fucking him, COVID-19 stimulus package. That was the pennies, the relative pennies compared to the trillions they gave to Wall Street, but whatever. Which gave $800,000 to Toledo. So Toledo, Ohio gets $800,000. Wall Street gets $4.5 trillion. $800,000 to Toledo for emergency funding and relief. The city council approved a proposal this week that would allow that money to go towards medical debt relief. The commissioners, but it's more interesting than just that, though. The commissioners of Lucas County, which Toledo is part of, said the county would then contribute an additional $800,000 to bring it to $1.6 million. Maths. The way it works is that the city government buys medical debt through the nonprofit RIP Medical Debt. And you can Google RIP Medical Debt. It's a website. I believe it's .org. And a year ago, before when I had Redacted Tonight, a TV show, and for those of you new to my stuff, I'm the most censored comedian in America, and I lost my TV show due to U.S. sanctions and my YouTube channel, etc. But back when we would do live streams, I'd do them with Eleanor Goldfield. We'd take the super chat donations and we donate it all back to people who were struggling. But before that, before we were donating it to people who are struggling, we were donating it, and we told you this on the live streams, we were donating it to various causes each week. And so really, it's not money. I'm not taking credit for this. It's money from you guys. You guys were the ones donating, and we were just the middlemen that didn't take a cut. And middle lady. And so before we would donate it back to you guys or those who were struggling, before we were doing that, we were donating it to a cause. And I think more than 1 week, we donated to ripmedicaldebt.org or .com or whatever. And what they do, well, I'll just read it. The way it works is that the city government buys medical debt through the nonprofit RIP Medical Debt, an organization that specializes in purchasing bundled medical debt portfolios on the secondary debt market, and then forgives the debt at pennies on the dollar. And if you think that sounds repulsive, not the erasing the debt that RIP Medical Debt does, but the secondary debt market sounds disgusting. It is. It fully is. Like, these are people who own people's debt. So they own the people's lives in many ways. And they're like, we don't want to go through the effort of trying to collect from these people because they're not paying up. So we will just sell this debt onto a third party and we will collect like 10% of it. So let's say Joe Schmo owes, if there's a guy who's actually named Joe Schmo out there, I feel bad for him because he's just like, he's the example of every, like, you dummy. But anyway, Joe Schmo out there owes, $10,000 in medical debt. And there's a company trying to collect that, the bank he owes. They may say, we're tired of trying to collect from Joe. So we're just going to sell it for $1,000, get our $1,000 and leave it to them to go collect from him. Now, normally the people that buy it for 1/10 of the cost, pennies on the dollar, whatever, normally they are the biggest assholes in the world because their job is to collect from people that are difficult to collect from. So they then, fucking sit in your bushes outside your house and just yell things at you as you come out, as you walk out. Loser! Cheapskate! Don't want to pay your debts. And it's like, dude, can you just like back off my lawn? Just give me a few feet. But so they're the worst human beings. But this is kind of gaming the system. You also can buy up this medical debt and stuff like that and then just erase it. You just don't go to collect it. And it rescues people's lives in many ways, depending on who they are. So you and I did that a while back, a year and a half or something ago. We took all the super chat. I think it was a big week. I think we got close to $1,000 that week, and we used it to delete medical debt. I think, so deleting like $10,000 or more of medical debt from people because you're buying it, quote unquote, for pennies on the dollar and erasing it. So that is what they're doing in Toledo. Just the term debt market. That sounds so viscerally gross. Just the fact that a debt market exists. Didn't Jesus flip over a few tables for that? The debt market. God, is capitalism gross. The debt market. Oh, it sounds like, you know, like liver pus or something. Just like fucking genital wart, debt market. That's where that fits on that list. Toledo is not the first place in the US to follow this model. Grim, which I assume is a person and not a feeling. Grimm said the idea was formed after seeing a medical debt relief plan passed by Chicago and the wider Illinois Cook County in July. The Illinois plan hopes to erase $1 billion in debt with RIP medical debt using the $12 million in federal funding provided to them. They erased $1 billion with $12 million. Like, that's fucking insane. It's insane this shit even exists. It's insane there's any medical debt at all. There's also that fact. Remember earlier in this episode when I was saying that a lot of countries have zero student loan debt? There's a lot of countries also have zero medical debt. Only the United States. I mean, maybe not only, but the United States is just the worst at just enslaving people under debt. They don't want you educated. They don't want you free from debt. They don't want you living your own life. They don't want you. I mean, in that way, if you look at the fact that we have the largest prison industrial complex in the world, most prisoners, and we have the largest debt systems, whether it be healthcare or student loan debt, various types of debt systems. If you count those as taking away people's freedom, which they absolutely are, I mean, more so with prisoners, but still, if you are stuck in a job you don't like because you're trying to pay off your student loan debt, then you're not exactly free. We are one of the least free countries in the planet. And yet we run around going, we're free. We're so free, it hurts. 41% of American adults have some kind of medical or dental debt. 41%, according to a 2022 study. Oh, God. I mean, honestly, the only reason these systems don't collapse under a wave of people storming the streets is because that A, the propaganda works. So most people don't even know all this stuff that I'm telling you. And B, that because they're stuck under debt, one way or another, they don't have free time to do anything else. Thank you, Teresa, for reading my book. I hope you are enjoying it. All right, folks, I'm moving on to the next story. But yeah, let's just go to the next story. Let's just do it. We're just gonna do it. We're just gonna rip it right off like a Band-Aid, folks. This is a pretty insane story. It sounds like at first it sounds like just a regular old, someone was canceled, someone was knocked off a panel, whatever. But when you get the details, it's pretty nuts. And it also tells you a lot about Wikipedia. Ironically, at the heart of this is how garbage Wikipedia is. Peter Beinart. So, all right, I should say up front, Beinart Adley there on the right of this photo is the founder and boss of Mint Press News. Mint Press is where I now work for my other show, not for this show. This show is not connected to Mint Press, but for Most Censored News. And I have the new interview show called Most Censored Views, which I just did an hour with Chris Hedges this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But anyway, so I do work at Mint Press News for those shows, and Beinart on the right there is the founder. So Peter Beinart leads the charge to cancel Palestinian-American journalist Beinart Adley. So the latest victim of the cancel culture wave is Mint Press News founder and editor-in-chief Beinart Adley. Adley had been booked to host and moderate an event discussing anti-boycott and divest and sanctions. You've heard of BDS probably. It's having a huge impact on Israel. Basically, it's saying don't support companies that do business with Israel. Don't invest in companies. Don't help companies that are doing business with Israel, and it's having a bigger impact on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, which is apartheid state. It's having a bigger impact than just about any other activism has had on Israel. So this BDS is a big deal, and thank God, because I think in the year 2022 it might be time to not have apartheid states. Just saying, not have states based on like racism in their laws. Like, might be time. Adley had been booked to host and moderate an event discussing anti-boycott, divest, and sanction laws in the United States and how Palestinians are under increasing pressure to silence themselves, when she was herself, ironically, removed from the panel at the behest of a shady advisor. Now, keep in mind, it wasn't like, and I'm going to give you more details in a second, but keep in mind, it wasn't like they just invited her to be on a panel. They were like, come talk about Israel. And then they were like, oh, shit. You believe Palestinians should like have a right to their land? Oh, get out of here. They knew exactly what and why they were putting her on this panel as the moderator, nonetheless, because she is a fucking amazing, accomplished Palestinian American woman who owns a successful and created a successful news site that reveals truths around the world, and it has amazing articles there and amazing people there. Like, that's why they invited her. It wasn't like she was invited to be on, fucking Hollywood Squares. I don't think that's still a show, but still Hollywood Squares. And they were like, oh, wait, she's a Palestinian? We can't have her up there holding the X card up or whatever. She was invited to be on Biggest Loser. We can't have that. The event was hosted by Voices from the Holy Land, an organization that hosts documentary films and group discussions in order to give voice to those ignored by the mainstream press and educate the public on the realities of the Israeli occupation. So this gets funnier and funnier. This organization, Voices from the Holy Land, their like purpose is to give mainstream press and educate the public about the realities of living under Israeli occupation, and yet still they were forced into banning Beinart from their panel. Like, that level of canceling, I mean, that would be like, that'd be like an anti-war, anti-war group was having a panel discussion and was going to have Code Pink hosting it. And then they kicked them off at the last minute because Code Pink was anti-war. Like, what the fuck? It was scheduled for October 9th online and featured a screening of the documentary Boycott, followed by a discussion. Other panelists included editor-at-large of Jewish Currents magazine, Peter Beinart. I don't know what Jewish Currents is. I'm guessing they talk about the tasty berries, currants, No, that's probably spelled differently. Anyway, maybe they meant ocean, like waves with a lot of Jews surfing. Boycott producer Suhad Baba and Texas speech therapist Bahia Amawi. I don't know why you'd have a Texas speech therapist there. You're on the panel and you're like, BDS is important because the Palestinians are suffering. And then she's like, now, see, you seem upset. I'm going to say that your speech patterns have shown anger, fury even. And what are we going to do about that? I don't know. That sounds like the worst, to have a speech therapist on a panel about BDS. That sounds like a terrible idea. So Beinart, the head of this Jewish Currents magazine, kept contacting the people putting on the organization and insisting that Adley, Beinart, was anti-Semitic, and that Minpress News, where I work among others, also Alan McLeod, who also co-wrote this article. Alan McLeod is amazing. If you don't follow him on Instagram, you should. His stuff is epic. Adley was saying, they said Adley was anti-Semitic, and that Minpress News was a discredited pro-Putin, pro-Assad, pro-Iran outlet. As proof, Heller reportedly showed Minpress's heavily defaced Wikipedia entry. Now, this is where we get into how amazingly awful Wikipedia is. These charges are, of course, false. Minpress is an expressly anti-racist platform and does not support any government, let alone specifically those of Russia, Syria, or Iran. Instead, Minpress focuses on exposing the permanent war state and those who benefit from it. For this, we have been targeted by the NATO-funded think tanks, the Israeli lobby, the Israel lobby, U.S. and U.K. intelligence outfits, foreign governments, and lobbying groups. We've also had our Wikipedia page attacked, been demoted and deranked by algorithms, and had our financial accounts frozen. PayPal froze their account. I can tell you from experience that when I put a video up for my new show, The Most Censored News, which, by the way, maybe I'll go ahead and put a link to the latest one, which I hope you'll watch. But whenever I put a video up, it gets very few views because that their YouTube is incredibly suppressed, like incredibly attacked. The algorithm gives it no love. But if you haven't watched my new show, Most Censored News, I hope you will check it out. So I put that in the comment thread, but you can just look up Most Censored News on YouTube. And if you're wondering, I'll just read this last sentence. For a Palestinian woman who defends the rights of Palestinians to resist occupation, to be called anti-Semitic is another example of the tried and tested smear tactic used by the Israeli lobby to target and silence Palestinian Palestinian dissent. And something you need to know, if you've never heard of them, Minpress does outstanding work. Like, go there, look at their work. It's all great. I often, and throughout my years at Redacted Tonight, I often referenced their articles, their work, their investigations. And now they have me. So clearly they're awesome. But Wikipedia, which, by the way, I covered it on a live stream several months back, so I don't remember the details, but the new head of Wikipedia is like formerly with the NSA or something like that. It's like a direct intelligence state revolving door straight to Wikipedia. But Wikipedia, the way it works there, and I've talked about it before in like my article that's on me there. They only allow things to be said on Wikipedia that can be backed up, or they supposedly only allow, they can be backed up by official sources, by sources they consider to be top-level sources. Now, what do they consider to be top-level sources? New York Times, CNN, Fox News, basically, NPR, PBS, basically anything that is U.S. state media, U.S. propaganda. Those are all their official sources, BBC and those as well. So basically, if you put something up, if you say Lee Camp said this on Redacted Tonight, Lee Camp said that this is that the reason he had a show at RT is because it's the only network that didn't never censored him in any way ever and let him say whatever he wanted. If you were to say any of that stuff, they would eventually, sometimes it could take months or even a year, but they'll eventually go there and remove anything that tells the truth and put in anything that's been written about you that is full-on lies, that comes from those pro-U.S. empire outlets. So I think that is a big part of why within the span of a few months, within the span of like 3-4 months, I had a New York Times hit piece done against me, which was filled with lies, and a NPR hit piece done against me filled with lies. And I did responses to each, wrote articles in response to each. And both those articles went viral, especially the New York Times one. So much so that my response to the New York Times might have gotten more views than their article on me. But that's not the real reason they do it. They do it mainly so that if you Google me or you look at my Wikipedia, everything about me that defines me to newcomers is garbage, is fake, is lies. And I think that's why they put that together. And they've done the same thing to Mint Press, although they've done it harder at Mint Press against Mint Press because, A, when you have a Palestinian American woman running it, easy pickings. That's probably whoever the CIA guy was whose job was to, all right, you're gonna take down and malign this person. Hey, Steven. Listen to me. Stop picking your belly button lint. You're gonna take down and malign this news outlet Mint Press. They're doing Palestinian stuff. And Steven must have been like, Mint Press was founded by a Palestinian American. This is easy. So that's an easy job. Anyway, so Beinart has now been canceled from a panel by an organization. And actually in the article, if you read the whole article, she doesn't really blame the organization. She blames that guy, Peter Beinart, who apparently led a mission to get her canceled. But an organization whose stated goal was to inform people on the plight of Palestinians, and yet they still banned her from a panel because she's Palestinian. Which, beautiful. Okay, folks, the rest of this live stream, which I have plenty more to come, will be at rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's Rumble, RUMBLE.com/Lee Camp. It is free to watch over there. It's free to comment over there. Please join me over there for the rest of this live stream. We're going to keep it going, and I've had to do that because YouTube deleted my larger channel, banned it globally with 250,000 people following it, subscribing to it. And they also have banned over 1,000 videos of mine. So that's why I'm at rumble.com/Lee Camp. And if you are so lazy that you're not going to join me over there, which listen, I get it. It's a long night. I get it. Or long day, or wherever you are. I don't know where you are in the world. It's a long day. But if you're not going to join me over there, please become a member at leecamp.net. You can become a member for free. But honestly, someone pointed out the other day that some people think that just by watching these things, you're kind of funding our work or my work. And for some people, that's true. But for people that are truly suppressed and truly censored, like I am, I'm not getting millions of views on YouTube. The TV show's gone. So if you're wondering what my YouTube ad dollars, so even though they banned my main channel, this channel, if you're watching on YouTube, is still monetized for some reason. I don't know why. If you're wondering, the massive checks that come into me from YouTube ad dollars, it's about $100 a month. So I appreciate that you may think you're funding my work simply by watching, but that's not true. The only way I can fund it is by independent people like you going to leecamp.net and becoming members. And the lowest level is $1.25 a week. So like half a coffee, honestly, at Starbucks. I mean, I don't know what a Starbucks coffee is. Well, actually, it depends on which city you're in. In some cities, it's fucking $5. In some cities, it's $1 something. But whatever a Starbucks coffee is, that's what you'd be paying a week to become a member at leecamp.net. Or you can pay more, but I hope you'll join me over there. But right now, rumble.com/Lee Camp. One last time, I'll say it. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. Join me over there. All right, just give me a second here, and we will continue to get into the amazing and beautiful anti-China propaganda.